What if Robert and Cersei produced a Trueborn Heir, Part 2? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. In Renly's camp, Bara watches as the murmurs show that Renly has organized plays out for her, a show meant to honor her and her victory. It starts with a young girl with dark hair born to the king and queen. She watches as this little version of her settles in with her father to listen to his stories of battles and fighting. But the stories soon become reality as Robert marches off to deal with the rebellions of his kingdoms, leaving Bara alone with only the memories of those tales to comfort her. As Robert returns, she vows to walk in his footsteps and trains with Ser Barristan to become a warrior. Tears begin to sting her eyes as she watches those happy days come to an end as she is sent to the Vale, while the story of her betrothal to Robert Arryn is their next pretext. In reality, it was a precaution to keep her safe from the Lannisters, as Jon Arryn soon discovers a terrible secret. Bara's siblings, or at least those she thought were her siblings, were bastards born of incest, leaving her the only true heir to the Iron Throne. That does not stop Cersei from trying to usurp the throne. She gasps as she watches a boar gore her father during a hunting trip. Though only a murmur in a costume, she grips her seat and reels from the betrayal. This shock turns to anger as she sees her younger brother, Joffrey, take the throne in her place. Rather than simply accepting this loss, the scene shifts as the murmurs add props, rocks, and trees to recreate the Mountain of the Vale. There, the one playing her stands atop the tallest boulder and rallies the Vale Lords to her side. Together, they march out to the Riverlands and engage the Lannister forces rampaging them. She bloods herself in this war, winning victory after victory alongside the Knights of the Vale, and later the Men of the Narrow Sea, as Stannis joins her. And amidst these campaigns, in the dead of night, a great shadow appears and swallows up Lord Tywin, leaving the Lannisters without leadership. This leads to a great clash in the Crownlands, where Bara and her army defeat the remaining Westermen. As the play comes to an end, Renly's men erupt into cheers, clapping and stomping their feet in approval. However, Bara remains seated and glances at the massive pavilion where her uncle is staying. He said he wished to discuss terms, but insisted on these honors first. It is only when the cheering dies down that he finally gestures for her to join him in his tent. He pours her a drink first and smiles. "It seems you've made quite an impression on the young men, my niece."
"Indeed. But I am more concerned with what you intend to do with these swords you've gathered, Uncle."
Are you worried? You've been spending too much time with Stannis. Isn't it obvious?
Is it?
No, I suppose not. But that skepticism will help you survive. Yes, I confess that these swords were initially meant for my claim, but you must see things from my perspective. After Robert died, the succession was in chaos. I had no idea what you would do, nor Stannis. If I did nothing, the Lannisters would have been able to secure the Iron Throne. I gathered the Stormlanders and the Reach to rally my side, to take the capital for our house.
For our house or yourself?
Have a little faith in your uncle, child. Yes, I will not pretend as if I never pictured myself on the Iron Throne, but I am no kinslayer. You are my niece, and I will not usurp your claim. However, as it happens, your small council needs positions.
And you have some ideas? Very well. We will discuss it, but only after you've sworn allegiance to me.
Renly does all of this, bending the knee in a public ceremony in front of his men. But that is just one of the remaining claimants. There remains the young wolf in Riverrun, and the remaining Westermen. Bara initially thinks picking off her grandfather's surviving army would be easy pickings, but this proves to be more difficult than anticipated. They rally under two groups, one under Gregor, who continues to raid the Riverlands, and another under Tyrion, who retreats to the Mountains of the Moon. He's won the allegiance of some of the mountain clans who now shelter him as he raids the domains of the Vale Lords. Suddenly, Bara finds her army at risk of being cut off, and the Valemen are eager to return home. Meanwhile, Robb has been declared king in the north, and the word treason hangs on many lips as they urge Bara to ride out and punish him. But that would only be possible with the Stormlands and the Valemen. This means her next decision is clear, confronting Tyrion and his clansmen. Leaving Renly with his army, Bara sails north while young Royce leads the Valemen overland. As soon as she arrives, she is greeted by Lord Nestor Royce, who was organizing the Valemen left behind to begin driving back the Lannister invaders.
The situation grows dire. The clansmen have entrenched themselves in the mountains, stifled by the Imp's men. They were troublesome enough, but with good steel and experienced men-at-arms, it can take months before we drive them out. They strike elsewhere. Our forces are stretched thin, and the small folks suffer.
We'll drive them out, but we must be smart about it. Tyrion Lannister is no fool.
As they march out, Bara hars reports of these attacks by the mountain clans and their brutal tactics, like rolling down stones on narrow passes, setting fire to the underbrush, or slitting men's throats as they sleep. But none of those things happen on their march. It doesn't stop Bara from riding at the head of their men. After several days of complete quiet, a figure at last emerges from the mountain passes, a Lannister man with a white banner, claiming that Tyrion, Lord of the Mountains, wishes to speak with her. Bara agrees to meet Tyrion in a narrow valley where a village not on any map appears. Tyrion is easy to make out, along with an assortment of knights and clansmen. He smiles as he sees his niece.
Ah, so my little stag has finally come to visit her uncle.
Uncle Tyrion, I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you during your trial.
I understand, my dear. I doubt Ser Arryn would have wanted you anywhere near me, but the past is the past. I come here to negotiate. I have terms. You granted me and my men amnesty, and will withdraw from the Vale and cease our raids. In return, I'll pledge the loyalty of the West to you.
Those are bold words, Uncle. I'm worried the clansmen might have rubbed off on you.
I can speak boldly, dear niece, because we are family. Or have you forgotten that? You are still half Lannister, though you may not like it. But the gods have given us the gift of a powerful name. As queen, it is your right to use it to ensure peace, as it is mine to bring the Westerlands to heel. If you truly value family, does that not extend to me and what remains of House Lannister? If you accept my offer, you get the West, and I get protection.
Very well. I accept your terms. You and your men will have amnesty. Withdraw from the Vale, and there will be no further bloodshed.
But not everyone shares Bara's sentiment. Varys soon catches wind of this decision and begins to spread the word of this, talking about how she is willing to forgive Tyrion despite his part in the War of the Five Kings, along with many of his soldiers. The Vale Lords grumble about the leniency shown to Tyrion, but they are happy to be rid of the mountain clans. But no side is as agitated as the Starks. They see the agreement as a sign that Bara is willing to forgive the very man who pillaged their lands and slaughtered their people. Northmen shout that Bara is half Lannister herself, and across the Riverlands, many disparagingly call her the Lion Queen rather than the Stag. Varys continues to spread these rumors, reminding them the Mountain is still at large with his men, and warns how she has not sent men to take his head. Bara learns of Robb's outrage through a missive delivered. Justice cannot be achieved while the lions are coddled. Your decision has made clear where your priorities lie. Do not expect the North to march under a banner that forgives its enemies. This message weighs heavily on Bara, and yet, rather than be shamed by this letter, Bara is angered by the insolence and soon crafts her own letter, reminding Robb that this war began when Catelyn unjustly kidnapped Tyrion Lannister, and how it was her, not Robb, who finally defeated Lord Tywin in the Battle of Rosby. She says she is willing to come to terms, but only if Robb puts aside his crown and bends the knee to her. It is met with the approval of Renly, Stannis, and Melisandre, who all consider Robb Stark as a usurper. However, none of them like the prospect of a campaign in the north, or declaring war on the Riverlands, which were already so ravaged by the Lannisters, lest they look no better than Tywin. Instead, Renly suggests simply isolating them and refusing to trade. Should winter come, they would be hard-pressed to survive without the grain from the Reach or Vale. Bara orders choke points and borders to be fortified along the Golden Tooth, the Mountains of the Moon, and God's Eye to prevent any northern incursions. However, she refuses to allow any raiders to strike either, punishing those who break the Queen's peace. The only exception to this is the Mountain, who refuses to leave the Riverlands, making it impossible for Bara to deal with unless she sends an army. Varys jumps at this opportunity, making it seem as though Bara is allowing the Lannister raiders free rein until the Blackfish tracks the Mountain down and kills him. Another sticking point remains, the exchange of hostages. While many noble hostages are exchanged throughout the stalemate, two people remain firmly under lock and key: Jaime Lannister and Sansa Stark. Neither side is willing to part with these valuable hostages for anything less than a complete acceptance of their terms. Soon, a Cold War develops where both sides refuse to move, but neither monarch is willing to back down, fueled by the mistrust sown by the spider. But as they look at one another, some houses beneath them begin to show signs of uncertainty. House Frey has blood ties to House Lannister and wishes for peace. Meanwhile, several houses in the Vale are not fully satisfied with Barra's handling of Tyrion's raids and feel more sympathetic to Robb Stark. Although there is peace, the Seven Kingdoms are built on a tinderbox ready to blow. All eyes focus on the war between them. Not even the death of Daenerys from a manticore bite sparks any interest. It is in the chaos that Varys decides to strike. He approaches the court of Robb Stark, presenting himself as an exile from the royal court, one who was driven out by Bara, and offers his services to Robb. While distrustful of the eunuch, he provides the young king with a tantalizing piece of information. The Golden Company in Essos claims to have a Targaryen prince in their midst, the son of Rhaegar, whom Varys had spirited out of King's Landing during the fall of the city. He has little love for the Baratheons nor the Lannisters, and will make a natural ally against them. The information is intriguing, but Robb is hesitant to accept it. He recalls the cruelties of the Mad King and all his father's efforts to overthrow him.
A betrayal, is it? You act as if this Baratheon dynasty is deserving of your loyalty. Though a friend of Ned, King Robert was a fool and a drunk, and Ned paid the price for his loyalty. Next is the mad boy Joffrey, who ruled with cruelty and fear. And now we have young Bara, brave and strong to be sure, but who pardons those men who have caused your house such suffering.
And yet the Mad King was worse.
And the Mad King is dead. This boy would not even know his grandfather or his father, thanks to Queen Bara's own kin. Would you hold this boy accountable for the crimes of his grandfather?
The question lingers on Robb's mind. Though he doesn't like it, the other lords urge him to consider it. If they are not going to accept Bara as queen, then surely someone else would be better suited. Wary of inaction and determined to free his sister, Robb agrees to this and orders Varys to hire the Golden Company under the pretext of reinforcing the wall after the recent wildling invasion. But beneath this claim, a secret alliance is formed. In exchange for Aegon VI's aid in rescuing Sansa, Robb will bend the knee to him. Ships discreetly begin to transport men to White Harbor under Robb's supervision. As this process happens, he is approached by another former member of the Baratheon court, Peter Baelish.
What brings you to Winterfell, Lord Baelish? Has Queen Bara sent you here to discuss terms?
I am here to present my terms and opportunities. The Vale is restless, torn between loyalty to Bara Baratheon and the memory of Erie's friendship to the Starks. With the right persuasion, the Vale could declare for you. And with its knights at your back, you could sweep the Trident and crush your enemies.
What persuasion do you speak of?
A marriage. If I were to wed Lysa Arryn, I may convince her to rally the Vale Knights to your side.
You would marry my sister. She is unstable and dangerous.
Unstable, perhaps, but loyal to her family, if properly guided. Bara Baratheon is young and malleable, a queen only in name. If Lysa believes Bara has slighted her and poisoned the memory of her beloved Robert, she will act decisively.
After much deliberation against Catelyn's protests, Robb agrees. The marriage is quickly arranged, and Lysa sees this change as a small price and declares for the king in the north, denouncing Bara Baratheon as an unfit queen and dissolving her betrothal to Robert Arryn. Lysa's declaration plunges the Vale into chaos. House Arryn, Grafton, Corbray, and Belmore rally to Robb's cause, along with several more. But other houses, such as House Royce and Waynwood, remain staunchly loyal to Bara. As all eyes are on this new conflict, the Golden Company emerges from the neck, joined by their northern allies and troops from the Riverlands. The tenuous peace that the realm knows shatters in an instant. As Bara gets news of this, she begins organizing a counteroffensive. Stannis and Sir Richard Horpe ride toward Harrenhal with 10,000 men, hoping to secure this vital point and secure their borders. They arrive just as Jon Connington arrives and lays siege to the fortress. The siege drags on for weeks as the Northerners and Golden Company try to breach Harrenhal's formidable walls. The Northmen organize small raiding parties to disrupt supply lines from the Crownlands. Yet these hardships are nothing new to Stannis, who survived the siege of Storm's End. This time, though, Renly is assembling an army from the Stormlands to reinforce them. The vanguard forces Jon to break the siege, though not before badly bloodying the royalist host. Meanwhile, Tyrion orders Sir Adam Marbrand to lead the Westermen to make a strike at Riverrun to try and free Jaime. However, by now the Riverlords have fortified their side of the Golden Tooth and halted their advance, preventing them from advancing any further beyond their initial gains. Lysa Arryn's declaration for Robb divides the Lords of the Vale. The most decisive engagement in the Vale occurs at the Battle of the Bloody Gate. The rebel Vale Lords attempted to seize the narrow mountain pass that guards the entrance to the Vale. The rebel forces, led by Lord Jon Royce, captured the Bloody Gate, but faced off against the full might of House Arryn and sellswords recruited by Littlefinger. However, a diversionary naval strike by Lord Valerian at Gulltown allows Sir Davos to smuggle reinforcements to the Bloody Gate, cutting the Vale expedition off from their home, where they lay siege to the Eyrie. As this war rages in the Riverlands and Vale, Bara strengthens her position by marrying Willis Tyrell. The Reach, with its vast wealth and powerful army, declares support for the crown. Under the leadership of Mace Tyrell and Randall Tarley, the Reach army marches north, threatening to cut off Robb's southern advance. Bara joins this army and marches into Stony Sept, advancing through the southwest. Edmure must now gather reinforcements at the Golden Tooth to convince his forces and meet this oncoming assault. However, Adam Marbrand takes this opportunity to renew their offensive and manages to break through, sending men to reinforce Bara's advancing army. However, Aegon VI joins Edmure and convinces them to join the battle, just as they reach Pink Maiden. Though they are expecting a siege, Edmure unexpectedly assembles his forces outside, stiffened by soldiers from the Golden Company. The disciplined soldiers prove their worth, holding the Reach back for a time and preventing them from advancing any further. Edmure organizes his armies into deep squares with pikemen in the front and back and longbowmen in the middle. These rain arrows down on the advancing Reachmen, causing horrific casualties to their advancing forces. But this holds them back. They are outnumbered almost 3-1 and begin to give ground. That is until Aegon deploys over a dozen elephants that rampage across the overcommitted Tyrell forces. The infantry are panicked by the sight of these beasts, and their tightly packed formations makes them easy prey for the elephants. They soon scatter and Bara is forced to retreat on the border. Robb is also working to halt Stannis' advance in the central Riverlands. Though Jon Connington failed to stop him from capturing the castle, Robb reinforces him with men from the Riverlands and north and some surviving Valemen. Determined to halt Stannis, Robb devises a bold plan to outmaneuver the older commanders. Stannis positions his forces near a fjord along the Red Fork, intent on forcing Robb to attack him head-on. Renly leads the vanguard, engaging Connington with the levies from the Crownlands and Stormlands, driving the Golden Company back. Soon they begin to push back the mercenaries and the few Northmen with them. Yet while they drive back, they do not break, and the fighting lasts throughout the day, swinging back and forth until the Stormlands cavalry arrives to reinforce them. They charge against Jon Connington, but as they advance near a thicket, they find it filled with archers commanded by Greatjon and Galbert Glover, breaking their momentum. There, Lyn Corbray launches a counterattack. A few Riverlanders led by Black Walder Frey and Robb Stark secretly cross the Red Fork, using a fjord they know of, and rush towards their flank. Accompanied by Greywind, the wolf terrifies the Crownlander troops who flee in disarray. At the same moment, the Golden Company launches a counterattack that drives Stannis back. Robb's direwolf, Greywind, tears through the battlefield, adding to the chaos. Robb personally leads a charge into the fray, cutting down several of Stannis' bannermen and nearly reaching the Baratheon commander himself. Stannis, realizing the battle is lost, rallies his remaining forces into a disciplined retreat, preventing a total rout but leaving the battlefield in Robb's control. Renly manages to break off as well, bloodied but alive. However, their numbers are far greater than the Stark Targaryen forces, and Bara is already beginning her advance once again, now stiffened with Westermen who managed to break through the enemy lines at the Golden Tooth. Seeing themselves outmaneuvered, Edmure Tully and Aegon VI pull back and try to consolidate their forces with Robb and Jon to create a force large enough to crush Bara. But rather than let them join forces, Bara urges her forces forward. The reinforcements by the Lannister army increase her confidence, and she soon gathers her forces for a battle and writes to Stannis and Renly to join her. However, before the battle, Ser Barristan presents her with a wrapped bundle that he brought from King's Landing, the hammer of Robert Baratheon. He had said that she wasn't strong enough to wield it, but after years of queenship and fighting, she lifts it. She can barely hold it properly. She holds the hammer close and thanks the old knight.
If I must die today, I will die as my father's daughter.
The armies clash at dawn along the banks of the Blackwater Rush, where the rising sun casts long shadows over the battlefield. Bara's forces advance with grim determination. The stag banner of House Baratheon flutters defiantly in the wind, flanked by the rose of House Tyrell and the lion of House Lannister. At the front of her forces, Bara advances, wielding the warhammer and clad in the antlered armor. Though it still feels strange, she moves with a sense of purpose, knowing this will end the rebellion. Edmure Tully and Aegon VI hold a nearby ridge, where they rain arrows behind a defensive crescent. Golden Company mercenaries, grim and disciplined, form the backbone of Aegon's line, spears bristling in perfect formation. The casualties are already mounting as they try to storm the hill, as the light infantry Bara sent ahead begins to falter, retreating behind their pikemen. Seeing this, Aegon deploys his elephants once again, but little do they know that Bara secretly had those same skirmishers drop caltrops on the ground. Soon enough, the elephants' charge loses all momentum as they panic, rearing up in pain and allowing Bara to rush forward, leading the charge against that hill. Ser Barristan is close behind her, shielding the queen with his own body as they charge up the hill. Bara's forces charge forward as arrows rain down, cutting men from their houses and piercing gaps in their armor. Bara spurs her steed forward, her warhammer raised high. She smashes through a cluster of Riverland infantry. Men scream and scatter before her, and those who don't are cut down by Barristan the Bold, whose movements cut through the enemy infantry, widening the gap for her men to charge. However, the charge has taken its toll, and of the 500 men who joined her, perhaps half remain. She spots Aegon's banner on the right flank and charges toward him on foot. Her hammer swings with bone-crushing force, scattering the mercenaries who try to block her path.
Aegon, face me.
Aegon hears her and turns, black fire gleaming in the morning light. Clad in an ornate black plate, he steps forward, his guards forming a protective circle around him. But with a sharp gesture, he waves them back.
The Iron Throne is mine by right. You are nothing but the daughter of a usurper.
A usurper who crushed your father's chest like a walnut. Let me show you how that felt.
Bara swings her hammer in a brutal arc, and their duel begins. Aegon moves quickly, his blade flashing as he deflects her strikes, but the force of it sends him sliding back. Bara doesn't let him recover and continues to fight with raw, unrelenting fury. But Aegon's swordsmanship is precise, almost elegant, and as he thrusts his blade forward, it punctures her armor and causes her to stumble. Aegon takes this chance to knee her and send her stumbling backward. Another cut wounds her shoulder, but as he attacks again, she swings low, the hammer striking his knee and sending him stumbling. With her last bit of strength, she smashes into Aegon's chest, caving in his breastplate. He collapses to the ground, gasping for breath. Bara raises the hammer again, and for a brief moment, Aegon's eyes widen with fear. Then the hammer comes down, and the Pretender King's reign ends with a sickening crunch. The death of Aegon sends shockwaves through the rebel ranks. The Golden Company falters, their discipline shaken. Bara's forces press the attack, sensing victory within their grasp. But even as the enemy wavers, the banners of the Direwolf appear on the horizon, Robb Stark's reinforcements. Robb's army crashes into Bara's left flank, their charge swift and devastating. Grey Wind leads the way, tearing through the Baratheon lines with savage fury. The Northern and Riverland forces cut down Bara's exhausted men. Ser Barristan tries to escort Bara to safety, cutting through more than a dozen ways to lead her across the river. But as they reach the bank, Grey Wind pounces on the old knight, and for the first time, his reflexes fail him, as the direwolf tackles him and sinks his teeth into the unarmored armpit. Bara tries to help her protector, but her injuries get the better of her, and she drops the hammer as the Northmen surround her. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.